Welcome in everyone to HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Good afternoon, good Friday afternoon as you roll into your weekend. Big football game tomorrow. I'm a couple of minutes late. I did say 10:50ish p.m. Central Time that I'd be on today. I'm a few minutes after that because I just went to Twitter, my X account, to break some news. This is breaking news. Class of 2028 Hog offer Anthony Spratt Jr., the 6'6" wing at a Benton High School. This is, significant in the sense that I was just out on Monday when Arkansas assistant coach Chuck Martin was out to see him practice earlier in the week. I interviewed Spratt. You can go check that out here on our YouTube channel. But Spratt at the time told me, yeah, I do plan to take an unofficial visit to Arkansas. A lot of busy weekends coming up. Kevin Ball says, good day, Kevin. From one Kevin to another, thank you, and good day to you as well, sir. So I just broke this news. Arkansas will have Anthony Spratt Jr. up for his first unofficial visit to Fayetteville this weekend. It's a perfect timing to bring in visitors. We talked about this yesterday, that the program was working on getting certain players up. I might come back on if I had enough significant news later in the day with a live, because I recorded early yesterday but put the episode out in the afternoon. But Spratt Jr. is one of the ones they're working on. Spratt Jr. will, in fact, be on campus. He is set up to attend a basketball practice inside the Performance Center, which will be the first time for all of that, to see the Hogs practice. To attend the Arkansas Notre Dame football game. He'll be in the house. Class of 2020, again, this is a big-time player. Do not sleep on this player because he's a little outside looking in terms of how soon he can make some announcement or anything like that, or that you would expect he would. One of the top players in the country going to take part in Team USA mini camp coming up in October. Also, Wooten Top 150 camp. That's a big deal out in Vegas. The McDonald's All-American Showcase event. He's already taken part in some other big events, Crossroads Invitational, Crossroads Elite Invitational, the CP3 Rising Stars. But a 6'6" wing as a true freshman helped Benton win a state title last year. The school's only state title, and that was at the 5A level, so really stiff competition there. And again, I was out at practice Monday and reported on that on one of these episodes, just how good he looks, how much bigger and stronger he is. Chuck Martin there, excited. I could tell Chuck Martin really likes what he sees, and you understand why Calipari is the youngest player he's ever offered before he even started his 10th grade school year. So coming out of a ninth grade. So of the 4 or 5-star guards we are after, who you think we want the most? I think Arkansas wants all of them. Understanding they'll probably get one or two. We've talked about who Arkansas leads for yesterday. We'll mention that again today. But good news that I just broke again. Anthony Spratt Jr. on his way to the Hill this weekend. Something else I broke today, put that out on Twitter a little earlier, and this was going to be our lead. We've got plenty of things to talk about, by the way. I'm going to get into my vision for Arkansas starting five. It's probably not going to surprise a whole lot of people, but there's some things to talk about here as we get closer to the season. We're 1 week away from prime time at the Palace, which we'll get to see the men's and women's teams lineups, rosters introduced. There'll be a laser light show or something like that, a dunk contest, and some level of scrimmaging by the men's team. And so we're going to get a glimpse at this team. I haven't been in the building since early July when the media was invited out for 1 hour. So here's an opportunity to see the team again, but we're going to go over my vision as we get closer now. And they started this week back to full practice after being limited in the summer and then the first part of the fall semester. Full 20 hours per week starting Monday of this week. So I'm going to go through what I see as the starting five in rotation. And then we're going to button it up today with the NCAA tournament success of this program is a little bit low-key, really good based on, the 2020s. And it's reminiscent of what was escalating back in the 90s when Nolan Richardson really started to ramp things up. We're going back and looking so far at the first half of the decade anyway, results of NCAA tournament. Arkansas is probably stronger than a lot of folks realize when this graphic came out early in the week. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and what it could look like after this postseason, what the possibilities are, what that path might look like for Arkansas to be among the top, 2 or 3 teams in college basketball when you look at NCAA tournament success again. By the end of this season would be through 6 seasons of 10 in this decade. All right, so let's get back to recruiting. We just mentioned the news on Anthony Spratt Jr. coming up. Look, I just checked in with a staff member earlier today. Arkansas is efforting multiple visitors for this weekend. We'll see if they squeeze in somebody on an official visit. Probably going to see a lot of younger players, or some younger players. I don't know what a lot means. We'll see how many they get in. But there's a lot of possibilities here, including we can't rule out the possibility of getting in a class of 2026, a priority target, in for an official visit. Where that will come from and how that would happen, I don't know. You have the potential to have a 2026 player or two to pop in for an unofficial visit as well. And then you've got the following weekend that is also open in terms of visits because Cold Clover is no longer coming October 3rd through the 5th. Remember, football hogs on a bye week, but you've got that prime time at the Palace that I just spoke about on that Friday night, October 3rd at Bud Walton Arena. So you probably want to take advantage of that and get some visitors in there. So we're monitoring all of this. Again, we've broken the news on the first one that's been identified, Anthony Spratt Jr. But how about Jordan Smith Jr., who took his official visit to Arkansas last weekend? And we know Calipari came on and reported yesterday when I taped early. I said, I know they're going out to see Bob Alladotton, Calipari and Chin Coleman being they, more than just the head hog, but taking Chin Coleman back out with him. That was the same tandem that went out on the first day of this open recruiting period, September 3rd. That was a Wednesday. They went out to the DMV area, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Virginia, that DMV area to see both Baba Alladotton and Jordan Smith Jr. Well, it made sense to me when we came on yesterday that in addition to Alladotton, they would be trying to go out and see Jordan Smith Jr. The problem was I had a busy day set up of appointments I had to leave. And so I went ahead and recorded early in the morning and talked about, I confirmed the planned trip to see Alladotton. Sure enough, they went out and saw him at Blake High School, I think around 3 o'clock Eastern time, so probably 2 o'clock Central time. But at the time we recorded, Jordan Smith Jr.'s dad said he had not heard from Arkansas staff about stopping by, but it just made sense that they would. And by the time I released the recording in the afternoon and actually published it, I still was waiting on word. Well, I got that word, and I went ahead and put it out today. That in fact, Calipari and Chin Coleman were in after school, is the way it was phrased to me by Jordan Smith Sr. They went to see Jordan Smith Jr. after school. So it makes sense. They were late in the afternoon to see Alladotton. Tells me in chronological order, they then saw Jordan Smith Jr. a bit later. And so here you are in the same week that he just came off the official visit. You're John Calipari and Chin Coleman. You're back out to see Jordan Smith Jr., who is a priority. We know that he's pinpointed the spring in terms of when he would sign. And so an announcement sometime in the spring, letting the dust settle in the college basketball season when portal season's getting underway and you're looking at what the rosters look like for your finalists. Remember, it's not a big list for him. And it's been a short visit list. Duke, Arkansas, Kentucky coming up. Georgetown, the hometown school that he's been on a ton, as his dad said, 1 million unofficial visits. So we've got Arkansas right up there in the pecking order, top 2 or 3. It's not a big list anyway. We'll see about the Kentucky visit next month. I'm assuming he's going to follow through on that. And we'll see if Kentucky's able to wedge its way in there. But Arkansas is in a great position here. I think Arkansas greatly improved its chances based on his visit. You got all that feedback. My interview one-on-one with Jordan Smith Jr., we talked about the things he said. I published those in articles, and so you can go look for that stuff this past week. You can go to my Twitter timeline if you want to go back and, if you haven't seen it already, and refer to some of the things he said. But the fact that Calipari and Coleman back out to see him is a strong statement of their desire to land Jordan Smith Jr., whether they can persuade him to get it done early or they have to ride it out to the spring. And we said multiple times that in addition to J.J. Andrews, we think Arkansas is the leader for Brandon McCoy Jr., another top 5 rated 5-star guard, as is Jordan Smith Jr. Left coast Chuck Martin, we reported this, out to see him on Wednesday, compete his first year at Sierra Canyon, so his first game against Utah Prep Wednesday nights. We talked about all of that yesterday. Eric Patrick Musselman and Anthony Ruda on that USC staff, they were courtside. Mick Cronin, UCLA, we mentioned that. UCLA was out there as well. Some other schools as well, but Brandon McCoy Jr., I still believe Arkansas leads. He took a Miami visit after he took that Arkansas visit earlier this month, early September. I love the interview with Anthony earlier this week. Go check out that interview I did with Anthony Spratt Jr., man. 10 minutes. That's an easy watch, man. He's a great kid. So thank you for the comment. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's a good idea. Go check that out. But again, Brandon McCoy Jr., I think Arkansas sits in the lead. The Miami visit. Look out for Michigan. Duke's another school that's been involved. The West Coast schools, the Left Coasters, USC, UCLA, some other ones. The Arizona schools, he played with Arizona Unity at 17U level on Nike EYBL. So I still think Arkansas, if it's not a strong lean or a mid lean, Arkansas is the leader there. I've said for a while, Abdou Torres is Arkansas as long as Calipari wants him. He seems to be a priority. Calipari actually started the week Sunday night of a busy week, then off to see Abdou Torres, the 6'5" wing out of West Haven, Connecticut at Notre Dame High School there. So I think a couple of names there that Arkansas leads for and would be, and if Arkansas gets commitments, probably these are coming off the board early, the early period. I feel more certain about that with the Torre than I do McCoy Jr. But I think unless I hear otherwise, McCoy Jr. might just get it done in the early period. And again, J.J. Andrews, the 5-star out of Little Rock's planning to sign in the early period. He's already committed to Arkansas since mid-May. So it kind of gives you a real quick update here in terms of what Calipari was doing. We speculated yesterday. It makes sense if they're out to see Baba. We just hadn't confirmed it yet, and later we might put a comment if we did. I decided instead to wait till today to talk about it, wait till today to put the tweet out that in fact they did go see Jordan Smith Jr. while in the DMV area yesterday. So nothing new there. The only thing I'll add back in here, just as a reminder that we talked about, Calipari out to see the Ratliff twins on Monday with his son, Brad Calipari, extended the scholarship offers to both 7-footers, top 100 rated 4-star big men. That Tuesday that was reported, and now we're on visit watch, and so we'll see. Was there a way to get those guys on board for a weekend visit this weekend? Could Arkansas be planning those two and sneak them in for an official visit this weekend? I believe. Looking ahead to next weekend, we talk about Alla Dotton. He October 3rd to the 5th. I think that's the weekend he's going to take his visit to Georgetown. He's already visited Virginia Tech, where his dad played. Maryland, the home state school. Buzz Williams, by the way, Calipari wasn't the only coach out, and Chin Coleman weren't the only ones out to see Alla Dotton on Thursday. Buzz Williams, the first-year Maryland coach, former Texas A&M coach, was also in to see him. Alla Dotton's dad sent me a text to confirm that at some point yesterday, but I don't even think I tweeted out that part of it because I don't care as much about Maryland, but I'll just drop that in here since we're talking about it. But we're eyeballing, how could you squeeze in official visitor? The basketball team, man, we keep getting dropped here and it's bugging the crap out of me. So it's been 3 or 4 times. Basketball team hosting Cincinnati in a charity exhibition game that Friday night, October 24th. Football versus Auburn on the 25th at Razorback Stadium, Bud Walton Arena the night before, Friday the 24th. 25th for football, 24th for that charity exhibition against Cincinnati. So Alla Dotton, the way it's scheduled now, tentatively, that's the weekend he's going to take an official visit. Could Arkansas be trying to bump that up to sometime sooner? And it would make sense to maybe try to squeeze in for this weekend, perhaps next weekend if he changes his mind about going to the Georgetown visit, which probably won't happen. Maybe they just stick with the end of the month. So we're keeping an eye on that. We're keeping an eye on the Ratliff twins for either weekend, this or the next, as potentials. We'll just keep an eye on that. Let's get through recruiting real quick. Mika Mirin, the news came out yesterday after I recorded her again in the morning and dropped that segment out in the afternoon. It was too late to work in the fact that Mika Mirin, it was announced yesterday via his agent that he is going to, in lieu of playing at Arizona Compass Prep or any high school in the United States this for his senior season, instead is efforting to hook up a contract and stay in Europe. Or I think there's some other possibilities on the table as well, but play professional basketball overseas this upcoming season. That would not necessarily preclude him to come and play college ball the following year. I don't know what all the pathways are to that. But the general consensus, I wouldn't call it a consensus, the prevailing thinking is he will be eligible regardless for the 2026 NBA draft, in which case, if he has a solid year of pro basketball leading up to the next draft, you might not ever see him play college basketball. I don't think that's his preference anyway. There may be some, some more to iron out in terms of will he actually be eligible for the next draft after he plays an upcoming season of professional basketball somewhere overseas. Uh, Probably so not, then you have a great chance you're doing one school of learning. The Hogs were in his top released several months ago. They got a visit out of him this time last year, late September. Remember when he was on campus and told my source directly that he liked the Arkansas visit much more than he did the Michigan and Utah visits. Utah did not survive and make his top 7. Michigan did, but for now, those things seem to be tabled and potentially never going to see the light of day, as he may just stay professional basketball until he's eligible for the draft. So we just keep an eye on the Mika Mirin situation. Just over 16 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. My apologies. We have dropped service like 3 or 4 times, and I just stuck with it instead of aborting. So hopefully you got all of that. Hopefully it's not too chopped up and messy. Let's jump into the starters for this current. First real glance as a community, not just a community of media folks that squeezed into the Performance Center, and like media, all going to be able to get in a week from today into that into Bud Walton Arena for that prime time in the Palace. There'll be some level of scrimmaging. Probably won't be a full-blown red-white game. I'm interested to see, do they use officials at all? Is it just coaches out there blowing whistles for dead balls and fouls and turnovers and teaching moments? Who knows? But you expect, if they're talking scrimmage, to have some level of full contact 5-on-5. And they're certainly equipped better this year with the way the roster's constructed to do something like that than they were last year when we got those 2 tip-off tour glorified practices in Hot Springs and Pine Bluff. And so we're going to get to see probably a little more than we've even seen. We haven't seen a whole lot come out of the social media stuff from the U of A in terms of practice clips, which is not much at all. So that is fast approaching. And so they'll divide the squad up if you're going to scrimmage against yourself, right? And but we're talking today about starting 5 once the season starts. Once we start getting into the end of October, when we get into the exhibition season, I mentioned Cincinnati, October 24th, that's a Friday. Then you turn around on Monday, October 27th, you're on the road to Memphis for that St. Jude's charity exhibition game. And then the next week, you're starting your regular season at home against Southern, and you finish out that first week of the college basketball season on the road, true road game, at defending Big Ten champion Michigan State. Oh, by the way, an Elite 8 team from last year. Oh, by the way, a team that's going to come in with plenty of top preseason billing as one of the favorites in the Big Ten. So you literally hit the road a couple of times, charity exhibition against Memphis, and then soon after that, when it counts, against Michigan State. So really now start talking about the starting 5 as though, yeah, someone just made the comment, Mika Mirin, and he does. His agent said he just wants to focus on basketball strictly. If you're in school, it's not a full-time job. You got to look at other things. So good comment there about Mika Mirin. He probably doesn't end up playing college basketball, but it's not something that's officially 100% off the table. But getting into this starting 5, we've talked a lot about it in the preseason, but we're getting so close now. I think it's worth going back to, and not a lot changes for me 1 through 4. Nothing changes for me 1 through 4 in terms of who will be on the court to start games. Darius Acuff Jr. at the 1, combo guard at the 2, DJ Wagner to start games. He'll see plenty of time at the 1 throughout the game as Calipari shuffles the lineup and gets into his rotations. At the 3, it's Carter Knox, of course. At the 4, this is Trevor Brazil's job as the lead guy. We had another. Then we were back to Malik Ewan starting at the 5, and as of late, we're back to the work that we keep hearing coming out of the building about Nick Pringle defensively, and then on offense, how good he is in the screen game on his rolls, finishing, being an enforcer at both ends, being very physical. Both players come in the transfer portal as strong rebounders, Ewan and Pringle. Right now, I'm going to give the edge to Nick Pringle as the starting 5. So Acuff, DJ Wagner, Carter Knox, Trevor Brazil, and Nick Pringle is how I see the starting 5 right now. If the season started tomorrow, again, when we see this scrimmage, whatever that looks like, you're going to split the team up. I don't know if Calipari will put 5 together that he intends to use as a starting 5 and then have them compete in a scrimmage against the second unit or something like that. That's a possibility, or he may just mix it up to keep it as competitive as he wants. But that's how I see the starting five. And so the rotation's pretty self-explanatory as well once you get there. Malik Ewan, he's going to have starter value. He's the stronger offensive player of the two. At the five, Pringle, but the better defender. I think both of them are versatile enough in what they do well to help it be on the court together and some tandem where one of them's kind of a 4-5 tweener or combo and helping at the four while Trevor Brazil's on the bench. I think we'll see a lot of Carter Knox. I won't say a lot, but consistently Carter Knox in small ball lineups at the four. And so there's more than one way to back up Trevor Brazil. But I think both Ewan and Pringle bring starter value. And that's not a fancy way to get around and say, well, we know one of those guys not going to start. No, I think they're going to get plenty of minutes. And I think it depends on how you want to do it. Who you have on the court is going to be based on matchups, what's working, who's playing well. And I think both of those guys are good enough, veteran enough, where they're going to see plenty of action in that rotation. And it's a three-headed monster with Trevor Brazil on your front line. So I see plenty of opportunities because he can help at the five, Brazil. Next in that rotation with Malik, let's say it's Malik Ewan coming off the bench. I think it's Billy Richmond III in that top seven for sure. He's going to be on the court a lot. He brings starter value as well. I think if you were identifying 7 players, those 7, the 5 starters I mentioned, plus Ewan, plus Billy Richmond III, give you the best combination of veteran play, guys that have done it before at the Division I, call it the high major level. You're better defensively with 5 of those guys in that top 7 are your best defenders on the team, in my opinion, the way it looks right now as we learn about some of the younger players and see how they develop. And that goes to DJ Wagner, Carter Knox, Billy Richmond III, Trevor Brazil, and Nick Pringle. Those 5 in that top 7 are your top defenders. I think Acuff and Ewan, who are in that top 7, it's more about their offense right now. This then puts who I see as the 8th man in the rotation is Malik Thomas, the very talented 5-star incoming guard. He's been streaky in practice, ups and downs. That's true of most freshmen. Not to worry there. There's question marks about Acuff as well. He's been continually getting better as a floor leader and a decision maker on offense. Defense is still a work in progress. But I've got Malik Thomas as that 8th guy right now, and I feel more solid about that top 7 in terms of potential starter value in big minutes. Malik Thomas, I think, will be in the top 8 in terms of not only his role, but how the minutes shake out at the end of the day. I'm just not sure I'm as bullish about a 20 to 24 minutes per game out of the gates for him as I was thinking maybe a few weeks ago. So there are some nuances into what I'm talking about today relative to what we've talked about before. As we get closer, the more information I've gotten from inside the doors at the Performance Center over time now, because there's a body of work these guys have established in there, what the coaches are seeing, what they're doing consistently, what they're not doing consistently. I tell you what, Billy Richmond, we talked about it before. Not only the work he's doing when they're in practice, but all the time he spent in the summer after hours, he's probably been the, G.I. Joe in that Performance Center on his own working out. Just a warrior, man. He's too good defensively, too versatile there, and there's other elements he brings. He's a guy that's going to have a big role. I think Malik Thomas has a chance to be a 20 to 24 minute guy. I just don't know about that initially, and I think there's probably 7 guys that'll get big minutes ahead of him in that top 8 rotation. But he's still in that top 8. We've said that all along. There's an identifiable top 8 when you look at the two top 8 players in a 2 deep rotation. And Malik Thomas, that doesn't change. And I'm still at the point where right now, I think maybe his minutes aren't, again, is still that cut again. Still not a place where I can project a game minutes. Game's probably going to win by blowout. These gives opportunities for guys like Sealy if he's not in a game-to-game rotation fit to get on the court. Paulo Samito maybe. We can't rule out a guy that's gotten healthy and back at practice doing some good things and an older guy in a Cream or Tall. I just don't have a vision for any of those for a planned, projected game in, game out role. They're going to get 8 to 10 minutes, book it. But at the point in time they're going to play, and it won't surprise me if there's a place for an Isaiah Sealy to have a game in and game out roll, whether that's 6 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes. I just right now, I'm stuck on that top eight. I'm backed off a little bit on how bullish I am about how many exact minutes Malik Thomas will get. Just kind of putting everything together. And again, for him, it won't surprise me if he earns his way sooner rather than later into the 20 to 24 minute projection that we were talking about so often when we had these conversations. Clear as mud, of course. We need to see more. But right now, based on information coming from inside without seeing a whole lot, this is kind of where I'm at right now, how I feel about this and how I see this rotation, the starting unit, and who fills in behind that. And boy, I can't wait to be at in for the prime time at the Palace next Friday night. All right, let's jump into Arkansas' success in the NCAA tournament. You look back at the last 3 seasons in SEC play, and Arkansas's had a losing record each time. There have been spells during those seasons that, as you get into March, where you're hanging by a thread in terms of even being projected as an at-large bid and potentially needing to win 5 games in 5 days at the SEC tournament to get the automatic bid. Otherwise, you're NIT bound, or maybe not even that. That's how tight it's been getting into March. But 2 of those 3 seasons, Arkansas made the tournament, came in as a crappy seed, and advanced to the Sweet 16 with some big upset wins along the way. If we look at just NCAA tournament success, I saw a graphic a couple of days ago. I retweeted it, and I can't remember who put this out. Shame on me. I should have wrote that down and gave them credit. But they put the winningest teams in the NCAA tournament this decade. Well, it's 5 seasons: 2021, 21, 22, 23, 24, 24, 25, 1, 22, 22, 24, 25. So 4 seasons, we're going into year 5. And so based on basically half the decade, Arkansas is tied for 6th in total number of NCAA tournament wins with 10. And how did they do that? Because they missed the NCAA tournament in Eric Patrick Musselman's final season 2 years ago, when the team went 6-12 in SEC play, finished in the bottom 3 of the league, or 4, and had an overall losing record, by the way. I think it's 16-17, something like that. But so all that during the regular season, Arkansas has 10 NCAA tournament wins. Well, they have back-to-back Elite Eights in years 2 and 3 under EPM. So 8 of their 10 wins, you have to credit the previous coaching staff. And in those seasons, by the way, they finished 2nd and 4th, respectively, in SEC play. Both seasons winning 13 SEC games. Well, I've projected this Arkansas team is probably a 13-5ish in what is the strongest conference in the country. Joe Lenardi, ESPN bracketologist, continues to project preseason 14 teams getting in by when March comes around. That was unprecedented amount of teams from one conference getting into the tournament until last year when the SEC did that. So you could repeat that, and so that's how tough the league is. And I still project Arkansas as a 13-5 kind of team in the SEC, competing at the top with Florida, Kentucky, some of the top tier teams for the league title this year. But 10 tournament wins, and 2 of those belong to Calipari from last year's Sweet 16 run. He almost got Arkansas to the Elite 8. Should have been an Elite 8 team, if we're being honest about that. Commanded that game most of the way. We don't need to go through all of it. But at number 1 is Houston. Kelvin Sampson, unquestionably, it's taken over, put Houston at the top of the Big 12, unseating Kansas. There are some other strong teams in that league. It's one of the best and has been consistently in college basketball. 16 NCAA tournament wins. We know he's had a couple of Final Four runs. Last year made it to the title game and lost in a close one to Florida. UConn with back-to-back NCAA championships, 2 and 3 seasons ago. 13 tournament wins in this decade. Gonzaga also 13. Duke with 12. No shock there. Alabama with 11. Alabama's had back-to-back seasons where they made a Final Four run, and then last year back to the Elite 8. And then Arkansas is tied with Baylor and UCLA with 10 NCAA tournament wins each, tied for 6. So five teams ahead of Arkansas so far in the decade. And if this Arkansas team can be a final weekend kind of team, which we've talked about, if they get to the Final Four for the first time in 30-something years, got to go back to the Nolan GOAT era, the early and mid 1990s. If they do that, you're going to pick up 4 wins minimum to get to a Final Four. So you'll be at 14 wins. We don't know what some of these other teams will do. A lot of these teams are going to be projected to do well in their leagues as well as NCAA tournament, and most of them probably will. But Arkansas's got a chance to leapfrog some by having a strong season, and dare I say, win 6 games in the NCAA tournament. That would get Arkansas to 16, give them another national championship. But I think it's interesting when you put in perspective how rough some of these seasons have felt as you pulled into early March. Yet when you look at postseason, Arkansas has corrected course in a strong way to put themselves in a conversation as among the top handful of teams in all of college basketball. When you look at NCAA tournament success, and it's saying a lot. Arkansas was dominant in the 90s. They have not been dominant since. They are right there on the cusp of being mentioned as one of the teams of this decade. And we know what you do in March matters more than anything else. The other stuff matters too. And it's probably why this caught a lot of folks off guard going, what is, because they're not thinking about Arkansas, from straight from November to March as being a power in college basketball. They've kind of had to, get things again turned around in a major way once they got to the tournament. And even by then, you're like, okay, what are we really seeing here? But if you add it all up, the last 5 years, 2 Elite Eights, and a total, when you count Sweet 16s, 4, because you can't get to an Elite Eight without going to the Sweet 16. If you want to say it another way, for the last 5 years, 2 Elite Eights plus 2 Sweet 16s, if you want to go as how far Arkansas got. And that's how they accumulated those 10 wins. Remember, the 2019-20 season it counts as the previous decade anyway, the 2010s, but that was a COVID year, and there was no NCAA tournament. So since that time, Arkansas's missed the dance once in the last 5 years, and now they say 20, 21, 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24, 25. Yeah, so they have actually played 5 NCAA, or there's been 5 NCAA tournaments already in this decade. Now we get to the second half starting this year. I said that a little bit wrong earlier. I knew I had it right, thinking about it coming in, then I goofed it up, but I just corrected that. So we're halfway through starting the second half in terms of how we look at the NCAA tournament and success. And Arkansas under John Calipari now has a chance to really add on to that and be one of the, when you look back on this decade, one of the powerhouses of college basketball. They probably got to start doing better in the regular season, though, if they're really going to be viewed that way. If they continue this pattern of being just mediocre in league play, and then they, get some breaks and then play tournament or win their way through it, you still want that postseason success. Absolutely. But I think Arkansas can do better than they've done in several years in league play, this brutal non-conference. I think they can rack up some big stage wins there. We just went through the players in terms of who starts, what the rotation looks like. I think it's a team that projects as a top 10 to 20 defensive unit once again, maybe even improve on what they were last year. Offense was, hit and miss. A lot of that had to do with poor three-point shooting, turnover problems, major gaffes for long stretches in games that really hurt their offensive efficiency. We'll see if they can tighten that up. I think it's going to be a great team in transition, great at attacking the basket, even in the half court. It might be Lob City with some of these additions on the front line and other athletes on the team. It's going to be a much more physically commanding team. It was not able to be that a lot last year, especially when Adu Thero went out with injury. So there's a lot of reasons to think this Arkansas team can punch a ticket to the final weekend in the Final Four. And we then circle back to, okay, Arkansas is one of the top programs of this decade. How good can it get? Can they continue on as Calipari perhaps finishes out his career? I mean, he's no spring chicken, right? He's still doing things at a high level. He looks energized. He seems to have hit that reboot button. But realistically, we actually see him getting out of this decade into the 2030s as Arkansas's head coach? Still probably not. But he's got a great opportunity to bookend all the success he's had at 3 other stops in college basketball with a great run at Arkansas that would put Arkansas in combination with some of the accomplishments of Eric Patrick Musselman early in the decade as one of those teams you talk about. Hey, we look back at the 2020s, Arkansas was right in that, top 3 or 4 of the programs in the country in terms of the decade. So Arkansas, it feels like they're getting back to where it belongs. The Razorbacks are getting back to where we always thought they belonged. For those of us who lived through the Nolan era, before him, Eddie Sutton, There was a 25-year span there where Arkansas was, a power in college basketball. Maybe not a blue blood, but knocking on the door. This decade, they're really not as far away as we might think from being just that again. All right, nearly 37 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I've enjoyed every minute of this. Hopefully, we learn more about visitors and unofficial visitors through this weekend and next. You got off to a fast start here on Friday with some of that news that I got out earlier. EPN was really a great stepping stone. Tom will look back at him kindly. Absolutely. It already does. There's no doubt about that. The way he left and the way things were going in the program, not so great, but it doesn't undo what he did here. The overarching theme here is that Eric Patrick Melsman was a big success at Arkansas. If you look at coaching at Arkansas, it's Nolan Richardson 1, Eddie Sutton 2. And, if you look at who Calipari is through a career, he's already a Hall of Fame coach, but he's just entering year 2. Musselman with 5 years at Arkansas, 3 of them, when you look at that NCAA tournament success, and they had some big wins along the way, some really big wins along the way. And they had 2 years there where they were really good in the SEC as well. An SEC that was pretty strong, not as good as it is now, but still pretty strong and a big stage conference. So no sleeping on EPM and what he accomplished. All right, I really am signing off. If something big shakes or breaks and I got to jump back on today live, I'm going to do that. But until next time, we appreciate all of you. Probably be sometime tomorrow. Looking for the football Hogs to bounce back against Notre Dame. But until next time, be great in all your endeavors. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.